Hi, my name is Greg Lehman. My guest today on Moonbeams is my friend Katie Manning. How's it going?
Hello, it's good to be here. I'm doing okay. How are you?
Doing awesome. We were just talking about how if any place was going to lead me out of LA, San Diego would be a close contender. So we're both enjoying a warm but very beautiful summer, I think.
Yes.
Outstanding. Cool. So let's jump right into it. What is exciting to you most about poetry at the moment?
So I think two things come to mind immediately. One is my students, seeing their work, and I have a few grad students who I'm advising in our new master's in writing program at Point Loma. And so they've been sending me updates through the summer. So I get these weekly emails about, this is what I'm reading. Here are the 7 poems I suddenly wrote because I had this burst of inspiration. Here, like here are the people that I met with this week, and we got together and did a little workshop. And, so my students give me so much energy and they excite me. And I'm excited for them and the work that they're doing. And then the other thing that comes to mind is next week, I will be on the faculty for the Glenn workshop that's put on by Image Journal. And I'm really excited about that. I'm going to be the writing retreat faculty.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, building energy at the school, building energy at the retreat. There's a theme there. Has that always been a priority for you?
I think, I am an extroverted poet, so I love to be in community with people. And I love to, celebrate others' work. And I feel like, doing the writing retreat faculty position is so good for me because I love getting people together and then absolutely just writing together and like we're gonna have 3 hours of silent writing time. Here we go. But there's something that's so wonderful about being just in the company of other writers who are committed to doing the thing. We all do this weird thing, but we can do it together, even though we're maybe working separately. So that always makes me happy.
Outstanding. Likewise. Cool. Well, drafting off of that, which poets were most impactful in getting you to become a poet?
Oh, getting me to become a poet. That is hard to say. I think, on one hand, my mom, when I was little, she would write poems for me, and she's not a published poet. She has not pursued poetry in any kind of, persistent or continuous way. But she would write little poems for me every now and then when I was younger and for my sisters. And that was, certainly an early influence. And I think there's something about having poetry read to me at a young age by my mom and my granny that kind of set me on the path. So I think even more than reading, published poets and there were certainly a lot of those too that were influential for me. I think one of the earliest when I decided, okay, I'm really going to pursue poetry. Elizabeth Bishop was really important to me, and Gwendolyn Brooks are two of the voices that I feel like if I am the love child of any two poets, I hope it's those two.
Amazing. I love that. And yeah, just hearing about any parents reading to their kids, I personally connect with as well. It's so important and look at the influence.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's definitely the most important thing, more important than any. And I did fall wildly in love with all sorts of poets and writers and, got excited about all of that. But I don't know that I would have been on the path to perceive those things or to even seek those things out if I didn't have that kind of early exposure and love of poetry built into me.
100%. Love that. If you could change something about how culture views poetry today, what would it be?
So I think we have a lack of awareness of poetry because sometimes people will be like, I don't get poetry or whatever. But, if there are songs that you love, song lyrics are poetry. If you have ever been to a wedding or a funeral, like people bust poetry out at these really important times. And so if we think about poetry, people who aren't regularly thinking about it, who are kind of peripheral to like the poetry world, they're still exposed to poetry and they still often love poetry even if they don't think that they do. It's that their view of poetry has become too narrow, which I think is a fault of the education system and how we are like, oh, we're going to teach these certain things, we're going to test you. And if you don't get it, if you don't get the right answers, then you just don't get it, right? And you're going to think for the rest of your life, oh, I don't get poetry. I remember feeling like that my senior year of high school because I would read poems and I would think about them in a different way. And then my teacher would kind of give an interpretation. And I was like, oh, that's not what I was getting out of that. I guess I don't get poetry. And that was really disturbing to me because I had always loved poetry. So, even if someone like me who was steeped in it and very much, writing poetry from an early age, if I was in that position of going, oh, maybe I don't get this, then, how much more people who aren't as steeped and committed. So I think it's a lack of awareness of how much we are immersed in poetry, and how we don't, as a culture, we don't value poetry except for at these exceptional times. If we're at these extreme times, it's kind of the way some people only turn to prayer if they are in extreme situations. I think some people use poetry in that same way. Like we're in this extreme kind of event. Now we'll look at the poetry, right? Now we'll use it when we need it. And I don't think that's bad. Like I hope that people turn to poetry for all sorts of reasons. Um, but yeah, but I think there's just a lack of seeing ourselves clearly.
Couldn't agree more. And bringing down any kind of gatekeepers, I think is a good thing.
Yeah, I'm totally, I mean, so, hear me, a college professor who teaches poetry. Like one of the things that I tell my students all the time is like poetry is big enough for all of us, you know? Like I just don't get being pretentious about like, Instagram poets aren't poets or whatever. It's like, yes, they are. They can, like it's fine if you want to pair like a little bit of language with some images and have that be the method that you're working with. Like of course you do that, like that's fine. And spoken word, and people who are doing more traditional kinds of forms or who are inventing new forms. I just taught a class that was 21st century poetic forms, which was so much fun. We're reading all sorts of things. We've got the duplex and we've got like other newer forms that have just been invented in the last like up to a few decades. The golden shovel, and it's so fun to see how big poetry is. And like, you're not going to break it if you try something new. You can, poetry is just, it is wide, and that's good.
I love that you're teaching that class too, because it's already striking me that, we're a quarter of the way into the century, and that marks a
It's
significant
crazy.
it has
Yeah,
flown by, of course. But
yeah.
that certainly marks a significant portion of time that's worth studying. And of course, in that time, you're going to find, poetry evolve and do different things. And it's extraordinary and important that you're teaching this class about what has emerged and letting people know that poetry didn't, it didn't end with Robert Frost, not only throughout the 20th century, but even now it's a living, evolving thing. I love that.
Well, and even like poetic form, often people I think who, well, we get multiple things. We've got people who aren't immersed in poetry who are like poems should rhyme, right? And then you have people who are immersed in current poetry. Many who think, or at least who want to get into poetry, who are thinking that free verse is sort of the thing. And if you do anything that's not that, that's old fashioned or whatever. But there are tons of poets who are working in form. And sometimes they're taking older forms and making them new, in a variety of interesting ways, or sometimes they're making up their own new forms and they're catching on and other people are using them too. So yeah, it's fun. It's just fun.
I love it. Yeah. And the fun is an emphasis that keeps coming up in these conversations too. Which, why do it otherwise if you're not having fun, So
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously there are parts that are not fun, like when you're working on something and you can't get it right, or when you've gotten your, 10th rejection in a week, or like it's
that's
not
not
all
fun.
it's not
Yeah.
all fun. But I think, even when the writing is more challenging, I think approaching it as play and with a sense of playfulness is just the way to go.
100%. Absolutely. Speaking of which, so we'll do some word association here. I got 10 words.
Okay.
Ready to go?
Yes, I'm ready.
San Diego.
Sun,
Paper.
plastic,
Dog.
cat,
Gatekeeper.
books,
Water.
ice,
Teaching.
students,
Pencil.
pen,
Red.
blue,
History.
time,
And hope.
peace.
Beautiful. Very cool. Thank you. Cool. And then a favorite line that you came across recently that you found remarkable.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me about this ahead of time because the problem wasn't not coming up with something. It was that I had several poems suddenly pop to mind that I
Yeah.
had just been reading. And one of the things that I do is, I get several emails each day from like different sources that send out like a daily poetry email. And so when I really love one, I will save it and I have a label in Gmail that's great poem. So I have all sorts of poems saved as great poem. Um, and so I turned to that, but then, and I had a couple of options, but then the one that really grabbed me yesterday was I don't know if you've been on social media, you probably saw that Andrea Gibson passed away. And they were a really important poet to a whole lot of poets, just really influential to a lot of people. So I saw so many people sharing their love letter from the afterlife. Um, and it just begins, my love, I was so wrong. Dying is the opposite of leaving. And I was like, ooh, what a poem. That whole poem is amazing if you haven't read it. Love Letter from the Afterlife by Andrea Gibson. You can't get through it. I mean, I couldn't get through it without stopping several times because I was crying. I was like, and we're gonna pause and cry, and now we'll continue. But it's a longer prose poem. It's a good chunk on the page. And it is just packed with wisdom and beauty.
Outstanding. Yeah, yeah. I mean, if that's one line, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, there are one part that got me. Let's see if we can read this without like crying at you. Um, yes, I know every secret you thought too dark to tell me, and love you more for everything you feared might make me love you less. Um, yeah, it's so beautiful. And I feel like I mean, all of us have lost someone, right? Like it's just a side effect of being human in the world. Um, and some of us have the good fortune of having many relatives or many friends, and it opens us up to a lot of love, but also a lot of pain when we lose those people. So I think especially I've lost a couple of close family members in the last few months. And so reading this just it it touched that in a way that was vulnerable and sad, but also there was so much just beauty and peace in this poem. So I was really glad to read it. I've read it a few times now, and I just ran across it yesterday, and I've read it several times. So it's good stuff.
yeah. Well, what a gift. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Um, well, I'll try to continue. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I'm wondering, so any recent work that you've had published, anything coming up? Where can people go to get more Katie Manning in their lives?
Oh, thank you for asking. I have a website that's katiemanningpoet.com. I always feel like it's a little pretentious to be like, I'm Katie Manning Poet. But the truth is that when I got my website, there was already a Katie Manning who had
Yeah.
really a lot of exposure, and she was a psychic. So I felt like I had to distinguish myself from Katie Manning Psychic. So I'm Katie Manning Poet. And if you go there, then I post regularly about any recent publications that I've had. I've got a book link where you can see all the books and find them either at the publisher, or I'm always happy to sign and send books if people want to order them from me. My most recent book, I have it sitting here, is Her Reverent. It has a cover that I adore. I ran into this artwork at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston. And when I saw it, I gasped and I immediately thought, oh my gosh, I wonder if they would let me use this for a book cover. Because it's fragments of stained glass and there are like some spaces in it even. And it's just all these broken pieces gathered together. And for my book, I was using the last chapter of each book of the Bible as a word bank and creating poems from those fragments. So it just felt like, oh my gosh, this is such a visual representation of the kind of work that I'm doing with my poems.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack there, but I have to ask about where the title comes from.
So, Irreverent is a portmanteau. I kept saying that this project was either the most heretical or the most reverent thing I've ever done. So, it is the combination of heretical and reverent.
Amazing, amazing. And so yeah, all this is linked on your site. We'll definitely share
All
that.
of it's linked there. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. I think the other thing I'm probably most excited about that just happened is I had a piece published in a I believe it's a new journal that they're starting with the creative process, which has been, it's this website where all sorts of different creative work is gathered across genres and across different, ways of being creative. And it's really cool to be part of it. And Helen Cardona was a guest editor for their first issue and invited me to send something. And it's just been so cool to look through the other work on that site, and to be in that company. And then they published a poem um, that I feel pretty good at. Sometimes you feel good about your poems, and sometimes you're like, I'm not sure about that one. But this is one that I feel good about that I wrote just in the last few years. So it feels really cool and special to be part of that.
Great, great. And what was that website again?
It's called The Creative Process.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
So yeah,
love it, love
it's
it.
like kind of a generic thing, but I'm pretty sure if you Google it, that's going to come up because it's been kind of getting more traction and hits.
Love it. Yeah, I'll link that up too. But Katie, always a pleasure. Ever since yeah, we met at JD's reading. I had been keeping you in mind to come on an episode here, so really appreciate your time and energy and yeah, hope we can stay in contact and look forward to more publications from you soon.
Thank you. I'm so glad we connected. It's always nice to connect with a kindred poet. So thanks for having me on here.
Absolutely. You take care.